Welcome back. Strength continues to be the order of the day. On the mid-cap side of the screen, just a couple of names that are moving around. Of course, Anuj has been highlighting this curious movement on PC Jeweler for a while now. The stock is suddenly recovering from the lows. Now it's down 7.5%. So there's a bit of a pullback coming in over there. So let's see. These are some of the names that are doing the rounds. NCC, by the way, has made a very sharp move. 2.7% up on NCC. Dilip, I'm going to ask you the same question, this time for the road players, again, because this is what the market wants. These are the ideas that it's looking out for. So if you want to play the whole road story in terms of contractors, EPC players, etc., which stock to back?
So I think, as what you very rightly said, that government will emphasize a lot on the roads because that is one of the few legs which can give a good push to the economy, and as what I very famously like to use that word, give a good multiplier push to the economy, especially the road sector. So within that space, I think you have a couple of names. I think one is certainly Nagarjuna Construction, looks pretty good, solid, and one must buy that at least for 18 to 20% gain. I think the other stock would still be something like a Sadbhav, and on a slightly micro cap name, it could be something like RPP Infra. They all focus, especially RPP Infra focuses more on the road projects. But slightly bigger name and evergreen to always to hold on to your portfolio, even for the long term, is something like Larsen & Toubro.
Okay, Mr. Tulsian, your thoughts on this deal that we were discussing in the morning as well, West Coast paper and international paper, because it just didn't add up.
See, it is surprising to see the international paper, who are the MNC promoter having exited at such a low valuation. Even if you take the, I'm not concerned for the minority shareholders because the open offer is seen coming at the fair price. But if you see the 275 rupees and 50 rupees EPS having posted by international paper, that means they are exiting at 5.5 P multiple. And in fact, the international paper, they have the global presence. They acquired it rich, about in 2011 at around 550 rupees per share, now exiting at 275. That too, when the paper cycle is seen to be at its peak. And now this is seen to be quite positive for West Coast paper, because on optically we may find international paper share price higher, but that's with a face value of 10 and West Coast is with a face value of 2. So the cash, the PAT of international paper is at about 200 crore, and for West Coast the PAT is at about 300 crore. Both the companies having declared the results. So I think this will be positive going forward for West Coast, and I won't be surprised to see if the company get merged, because I recall about 3 decades back, the West Coast only acquired the Andhra Pradesh paper mill as a SIC unit, turned around, then sold to international paper, and again having come back in their fold. So this is the history having repeated, but seem to be quite positive for West Coast. And I'm fearing that probably there may be some kind of competitive bid if it is possible. Maybe ITC or JK Group can come and say that even we are prepared to acquire at much higher price. So what will be the fate in that case, I cannot say. But if purely from this deal having executed, this is seen extremely positive for West Coast, but quite surprising to see promoters of international paper exiting at such a low rate.
Okay. All right, Mr. Tulsian, we will wrap up the conversation for today then. Thank you very much. We will catch you with the action again tomorrow. As you were just highlighting, it is F&O expiry, and at least as of now, the market's perhaps going in with the same kind of positivity that we've seen through the series. So from the top of the day, there's once again getting a little bit of that sluggishness come through. 11,950 on the index. Yogesh Mehta of Motilal Oswal is now joining in. Yogesh, good afternoon to you. It's been quite a comeback series for the bulls. How would the positioning be? What would your advice be on the Nifty and the Bank Nifty for the new series?
Yeah, good afternoon, Surbhi. For this month, we have seen very skewed 12,000 call option and 11,900 is a put option. Open interest is the highest. And the next month build-up is now getting into 12,500 on the open interest on the call side, and lower side 11,500 and 11,000 respectively. So it shows that as we are near to the all-time highs both the indices, it shows that 12,250 and 12,500 are likely to be the next level to watch out for the bulls, and that cannot be neglected. And the chances are very high it can move towards that direction. And on the Bank Nifty side, we have already seen a strong run-up in this series as well. and marking a new high, and right now it is just 200 points away. But open interest, there is no much significance, but yet the way private financial weightage companies are showing strength, there is no respite for any kind of correction. So probably we may see 32 plus kind of bank nifty levels into the coming June series expiry.
Okay, well, let's. Yogesh, thanks a lot for your quick take on the FNO expiry. Let's move on now, and let's talk about what everyone is going to talk about from today, which is Cricket World Cup. Now, this is of course now happening in England, and we have the IFL team taking a shot at selecting the World Cup team. But not your favorite usual men in blue, but stocks. We have Ayan Mukhopadhyay now joining us. Ayan, of course, you are in the middle of the action, so we can feel a bit jealous. But anyway, let's talk about your dream team. First of all, who's your Virat Kohli? Who's your captain?
Well, captain is PM Modi. That's what I've written in my report. Good afternoon, everyone. And I think everyone in India that was the question that was on everyone's mind for the last 1 year. Who is going to be our captain for the next 5 years? And now that we know that you have a very, very stable captain at the helm, and the whole team is oriented around that.
Okay, and the captaincy stock. Okay, let's talk about the top batsmen. Who would be your top batsman?
Okay, so the way that I have gone about this team selection is that it's going to be like one-day cricket as one-day cricket has evolved. I think so is now the sentiments have evolved also. That is no longer we don't no longer is now the batsman in England greeted with damp, overcast conditions, green tops, seaming wickets, with 200 as a winning total. But now the tanks have changed, and 350, 400 also seems to be, totals which are not really guaranteeing a success. So it's like, it's time where batsmen are going to make merry. And that is definitely the optimism that the market has built in. That is the next few years, is going to be a bit of a merrymaking in the market. And, this is so my stock selection has also been geared towards that, at least for the batsmen. That's what I've chosen. More cyclically positioned batsmen who can actually, make use of the good mood, the sentiments, and drive home the advantage. So if you see my team, that I'm opening with two old war horses who had been sidelined, of course, is SBI and L&T. Those would be my opening batsmen. And yes, as I've written in my report, SBI is back with a gusto. It seemed to have been completely confined into retirement, if I call it, with all the NPA issues. But now it has been a gusto and seems to be like a consensus inclusion in most FII teams. And then if you go down my team, you would see that, I have not completely thrown caution into the wind and gone, but I've got a very, very stable number 3 in HDFC Bank, which I feel now is nearing the century mark in market capitalization in dollar billions. And maybe in the next 3 to 4 years, it could hit us a double century in that. And then, of course, I have two rookie players in Gujarat Gas and Deepak, and I try to beef up the batting there. A bit of a pinch hitting style there. Again, very, very high growth prospects for both of the companies there. And then getting into the all-rounders, Reliance is the true all-rounder now in India. Again, quoting the Indian Selection Committee, a three-dimensional player there. Not only in petchem and oil and gas, but in also in retail and and telecom. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we're getting the broad sense. You've got your openers in the form of L&T and SBI. Reliance, for obvious reasons, is the all-rounder. Do you have a Bumrah in this team? If so,
yes.
What stock is that?
Okay, so the bowlers I've gone with slightly defensive approach, and my main bowler here is basically Bajaj Finance. Yes, it's basically in an environment where all the other bowlers, or rather, let's say the NBFC cohort has been carted along the park or butchered. This guy has just continued to deliver, and not deviated in his line and length, and the nagging accuracy has been maintained. So Bajaj Finance here is my stellar bowler, and there is absolutely no way that it's going to deviate, and it's going to keep a check. Though the valuations are pretty eye-watering, that valuations are going to sustain.
Okay, and interesting choice of wicketkeeper. Of course, ICICI Lombard. Very interesting.
Well, yes, I wanted a no-frills approach there. The insurance sector in India, again, is at a cusp. I think that sector also is at a cusp. And I chose a non-life player here. Regulations are going to be favorable. And the stock has done well, but I think it will continue to do well. And it's a safe option, as I said, as I've written in my report, just to hold on to all chances and also to give a bit of an acceleration coming in.
So, Ayon, now I'm going to ask you this. This is your Dream 11. If this is sort of Team India, whatever, Team Dalal Street, what are the chances of taking home the cup? In the sense, I mean, what are the chances of this great run in the market continuing? We are speaking at a day when the swearing-in ceremony is going to happen. There's plenty of green across the screen. Is the party going to last?
Well, that's a question on everyone's lips, and we hope that it will going to last. But of course, as with every team, it should not look only good on paper, and ultimately it has to play out. So our captain will have to, deliver on a lot of things. And I think the focus on Mr. Modi in his new term will be on to revive growth, will to carry on some of the agendas that he has been carrying on in his previous term, and basically deliver on what the mandate that he's been given to perform. And we also need a bit of luck with the conditions, which means the global scenarios. And if that is played, there's no reason why this dream team will not perform.
Okay, I'm getting back to the middle order now. Since we discussed most of the large cap stocks, two mid caps which really stand out in this list, Gujarat Gas and Deepak Nitrite. Now, middle order is very important. Ayon, you can't afford middle order to fail. What are the risk factors in both these names?
Well, the risk factors obviously are that, if the growth doesn't come in these companies, for example, Deepak Nitrite, the valuations, you have a valuation support there. But of course, if you don't have growth, then you have a problem there. Similarly, with Gujarat Gas, if the pricing goes, then you have a problem there. But the thing is, in these present conditions, you do not want a middle order also, which is very, very like a test match. So you would want a middle order which can give you the impetus, and that is why I've gone with players which are slightly more hitting in that sense. You already have a HDFC Bank little higher up, which can give you the spine to your innings.
So Ayon,
and I also mentioned the all-rounder that I have in Tata Global. I think that also is a true all-rounder now, given that it has now become the flagship, or rather it's being the perceived flagship consumer company of the Tata Group.
Yeah, perhaps that's the dark horse on your list. I mean, considering the big reorganization is finally through, maybe we'll see some more fireworks from that stock. But now that we're discussing the whole dream team, let me talk to you about the batting conditions. What kind of a pitch are you hoping for? Going back to the reference in terms of immediate policy impetus, what would you want from Modi 2.0?
As I mentioned earlier, the growth is definitely the big focus area for Mr. Modi here, and the impetus has to be on reviving growth. So you have to have growth there, but also growth not at a cost of fiscal lacks there. So it has to be a balanced approach there. The rural situation is also pretty adverse there. So addressing the rural situation there, and then continuation of some of the reforms, like the better or other simplification of the GST regime, continuation of the power sector reforms that were going on, land and labor reforms. So the land and labor reforms, so especially for land, for that he needs support from the state governments. So continuation of that side. Then the other major thing that we need is, the continuation of the disinvestment in the PSUs. We should see some privatizations happening in the PSU sector. So these are some of the things that we definitely would need to see. Of course, support would be needed again from the RBI coming on. So all these things should augur well for the market.
All right, so Ayon, that's of course the stocks, but your bet, who's winning the World Cup? What's the sense you're getting?
Well, I think the three clear favorites which were ahead from, and again, it depends a bit like conditions. If you have the pitch completely as bowling, basically as batting paradises, then it can be anyone's. But I think if there is a little bit of, as I've written also in my report, the team with the best bowling may win the World Cup, and I think there. England, India, and Australia have a clear edge. South Africa also has a very good team, but I think they do falter at the final hurdle. So my clear three favorites would be India, England, and Australia.
I think those are the favorites for everybody this season. I mean, whoever I speak to, more on that coming up later. Final question.
And of course, is West Indies in this tournament for sure, because of their power-packed batting lineup.
Okay, let's see. As they say, may the best team win. We'll definitely connect with you. I don't know how much work will get done in London in the offices over the next 3 to 4 weeks, but we'll definitely connect with you to catch that pulse and the market's pulse as well. Thank you very much for joining us.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Thanks for being with us on the show. Dilip, thanks for just standing by with that. You know, as we're speaking to you, the market's again cooling off. We are approaching the 3 p.m. Sort of move. And it's just pertinent to note that there is that slide that's kind of come through. What has led to it? Some of the banks, Axis, Kotak Mahindra, IndusInd Bank, basically the bank Nifty has cooled off very, very quickly as well. Maruti, Ultratech. So there is an overall profit-taking that seems to be setting in. But a broader question, Dilip, you know, once this, right now maybe some excitement, we're getting the new government, portfolios will be assigned. Once all of this is well and truly behind us, then what is this market's trajectory and how much more upside would you give it?
So, well, I think if you ask me, let me start from your last question, that I think upside-wise, maybe on a Sensex, maybe another 2,000 points doesn't look impossible, or maybe 500 to 700 points on Nifty from here on. But, you know, in the sequence of things, you have this, so many things coming up, the RBI policy, but more importantly, budget. We have always seen that with new government and the budget coming, it's quite a potent combination, and more so this time because everybody is hoping and wishing that government will do that extra magic and the extra trick to ensure that the economy really starts roaring back again, and some of the major verticals which have slowed down will start seeing their revival. So I think that hopes itself will be good enough for the markets to really, the markets will climb based on those hopes. And that's why I think that indices will continue to be bullish. But of course, as we head towards the 30th June and when we will start seeing what kind of commentary the companies will be talking about, whether the revival will be back-ended as what we all expect in the last 2 quarters of the current fiscal, or whether that will still get postponed, I think that is what will really determine the further course of action. But at least till the budget, I think the markets will be fairly very firm.
All right, Dilip, thanks a lot for joining us. Good talking to you. The 3 p.m. move now is happening on the upside again, which is interesting because just before that, there was a bit of a downtick. But it's really all over the place. Suffice to say that the clean move that you had is no longer there. And it looks like perhaps somewhere around 11,950 on the Nifty and 31,500 on the Nifty Bank. Could be the equilibrium. Just looking at some stocks right now, IndusInd Bank is once again a bit of a problem point for the market, moving to the low point of the day. Eicher Motors is down. In fact, most autos now ahead of monthly sales, they are seeing decline. Look at that move on IndusInd Bank. That's led the Bank Nifty lower. Apart from that, ITC as well. By the way, in between we had results from Godfrey. They didn't look too good. And that stock right now at the low point